The affluent CEO believed he was destined to remain childless until his former partner appeared, cradling two identical baby girls who bore his striking features. Ethan Hayes had always held a firm belief in mastery over his business, over his choices, and over the path of his meticulously crafted existence. At 38, he had successfully constructed an empire that reached across continents, managing a multimillion-dollar tech corporation from a stylish corner office high above downtown Manhattan. Each day unfolded with precision, his attire flawlessly crafted, and his demeanor renowned. Yet, hidden beneath the facade of achievement was a subtle, personal pain he had long concealed, a sensitivity he would not permit himself to confront. 3 years prior, Ethan found himself in a clinical doctor's office, confronting a specialist whose calm, authoritative voice lingered in his mind whenever he dared to reflect on that moment. The words were steady yet conclusive. "Mr. Hayes, according to these tests, I regret to inform you that you are infertile. It is inherent and unchangeable. While there are other options available, the possibility of biological fatherhood is not achievable." Ethan remained quiet, nodding at the right moments, taking in the details as if reviewing a financial statement, without emotion, with precision. Externally, he displayed no response. Within, a subtle break occurred, an unseen fissure widening deep inside him. He exited the clinic that day, shut the door firmly behind him, and resolutely chose never to open it again. The diagnosis arrived soon after the heart-wrenching split with Sophie Bennett. He had cherished Sophie in a manner he never imagined possible, yet their bond had been intricate, fervent, and ultimately damaging. She embodied all the qualities he lacked: warmth, spontaneity, and a willingness to express her emotions freely. Following a heated confrontation fueled by his reluctance to allow her into his carefully shielded world, Ethan had suddenly called it quits. He altered his phone number, devoted himself completely to his work, and traveled across the globe for a business trip, essentially vanishing from her life and any chance of mending their relationship. He assured himself it was the right choice, dismissing the void that ensued and allowing his achievements to dull the pain of his personal grief. Years later, Ethan's existence revolved around a meticulously crafted isolation. He toiled tirelessly, journeyed often, and steered clear of emotional connections. His colleagues respected his unwavering discipline, investors placed their confidence in his keen judgment, and his empire flourished, sustained by the meticulous control he upheld. Yet, in spite of the power, wealth, and apparent perfection surrounding him, Ethan experienced an unsettling emptiness within. He concealed a profound emptiness with remarkable skill, leaving those around him completely unaware. Yet, during still nights spent in solitude, gazing from his penthouse at the shimmering city lights, Ethan occasionally permitted himself a fleeting thought about whether something vital had slipped away over time. On a somber November afternoon, as he sat at a lengthy conference table amidst a pivotal board meeting, his assistant discreetly approached, leaning in to whisper an apology into his ear. "Mr. Hayes, there's a lady waiting for you downstairs. She has her children with her and demands to speak with you right away. Sophie Bennett is her name." The mention of that name struck him like a lightning bolt, briefly shattering the flawless facade he had carefully constructed. He swiftly gathered his thoughts, his face a mask of neutrality as he politely took his leave and made his way to the elevator. As Ethan entered the lobby, his eyes immediately found Sophie. She lingered by the reception desk, cradling two tiny toddlers clad in matching pastel jackets. She appeared even more stunning than he recalled, her golden locks flowing softly around her shoulders. Yet her expression bore a fatigue he had never witnessed before. Yet it was the children who captivated him, the twin girls grasping her arms, each with silky blonde hair and wide, inquisitive blue eyes, strikingly reminiscent of someone he knew. Sophie held his gaze steadily, her demeanor composed yet earnest, her tone resolute even as a hint of vulnerability lingered beneath the surface. "We need to talk, Ethan," she said softly, adjusting the weight of one of the girls on her hip. "These are your girls." The words struck him like a sudden impact, leaving him momentarily immobilized. Ethan gazed at her, a tumult of disbelief and denial waging war within him. He recalled with striking clarity the doctor's words from years past, the chilling assurance of medical impossibility. Every logical fragment of his being shouted that this was impossible. Yet, standing before him were two unmistakable little reflections of something he had yet to grasp, confronting every meticulously crafted reality he had established. In an instant, after what felt like an eternity, Ethan experienced a profound sense of chaos, as if he had lost all grip on his life. Ethan remained motionless for what felt like an eternity, caught in a silence that stretched on as he gazed into Sophie's resolute yet tender expression. The lobby of his company hummed softly with the movement of employees, oblivious to the profound emotional transformation taking place at the front desk. Eventually, Sophie repositioned one of the twins, Emma, as Ethan would soon discover, to rest more comfortably on her hip, shattering the awkward silence. "Could we find a more secluded place to discuss this?" she inquired gently, her tone steady yet resolute. Ethan nodded, gesturing for her to enter a small private conference room just off the lobby, his legs feeling oddly numb as he trailed behind her. Upon entering, a heavy silence enveloped the space, interrupted solely by the gentle murmurs of the twins, who seemed far more captivated by the strange environment than by the anxious adults nearby. Ethan's voice was strained when he finally spoke, his words terse with the acute sting of shock and bewilderment. "Sophie, this is perplexing," he remarked, his gaze shifting to the toddlers who were now observing him with curiosity. "Medical professionals informed me that it's unfeasible. It was stated unequivocally long ago that it is biologically impossible." Sophie carefully set both girls down on the floor, allowing them to cling to her legs for support, while she rummaged through her purse and silently passed an envelope to Ethan. Her gaze was unwavering, resolute, concealing a subtle sorrow beneath her fierce resolve. He accepted the envelope with a hint of reluctance, his hands quivering just a bit, even though he tried to maintain his composure. As he pried it open, a gasp lodged in his throat. The DNA test was conducted with professional certification, and the results were unequivocally stark. He perused the lines repeatedly, the words gradually embedding themselves in his mind until a sense of dizziness washed over him. Ethan Hayes, biological father, likelihood 99.9%. He gazed at Sophie, a mix of disbelief and vulnerability washing over him as her quiet scrutiny held him captive. Sophie finally spoke, her voice gentle yet resolute. "I was surprised by how readily you agreed to this, Ethan. However, my arrival here was not without careful consideration. I assure you, it was never my intention to disturb your life once more. But these are your daughters. I was left with no alternatives." She paused briefly, casting a glance at the little ones who were engaged in quiet play at her feet. "Lily and Emma," she said softly. Ethan experienced a sharp ache in his chest upon hearing their names, grappling with the realization that they had lived their lives unbeknownst to him. He settled into a chair, his fingers brushing through his dark brown hair, grappling with the weight of the situation unfolding around him. Sophie observed him in silence, attuned to his inner turmoil while maintaining her composure and patience. At last, Ethan lifted his gaze to meet hers, his voice subdued and wavering. "What brings you to this moment, Sophie? If these belong to me, if this is genuine, why didn't you share this with me earlier?" She inhaled deeply, her gaze locking onto his with a sincerity he had always found captivating. "I made an effort, Ethan. Yet you disappeared following our separation. You altered the figures, departed the nation, constructed barriers around yourself that I couldn't scale. Initially, I persuaded myself that I could manage on my own. Indeed, I committed to it for a whole year. Recently, Emma fell ill. Nothing too grave, but certainly enough to send a shiver of concern through me. I came to understand that they are worthy of so much more. They are worthy of their father. It's not solely about financial backing, important as that is, and I won't deny it, but they truly deserve you. Your essence, your affection." Ethan gazed down at Lily, who was slowly approaching him, her small face illuminated by a spark of curiosity. His heart pounded with a heavy ache as he observed the soft curls of golden hair, the plump cheeks, the pure gaze reminiscent of Sophie's, Yet now, he recognized the faint traces of his own likeness within her. Gently, he sank to one knee, inviting the child to come to him in her own way. Lily hesitated, her small hand resting gently on his knee as she looked up at him with uncertainty. A wordless inquiry reflected in her gaze. He experienced a strange constriction in his throat, a surge of emotion rising within him, intense and unrefined. Ethan had encountered formidable opponents in the business world with unwavering resolve, had executed cold decisions without a second thought, yet nothing could have equipped him for the raw vulnerability he experienced now, standing before a small, innocent being who gazed at him as if she held an innate trust in her heart. He took a deep breath and looked up at Sophie, noticing the silent tears in her eyes that reflected the chaos within him. "I don't know how to do this," he confessed softly, his voice barely above a whisper. "However, if this is indeed the case, if they belong to me, Sophie, then I am eager to make an attempt." For the first time since her arrival, a hint of warmth broke through Sophie's typically guarded demeanor. She nodded, wiping away a tear from her cheek, and gave a faint, hesitant smile. "That's all I request, Ethan. Simply give it a go." In that stillness, surrounded by the tangled emotions of shock, uncertainty, and hope, Ethan realized that his carefully managed existence was on the brink of total disarray, and for the first time, he embraced the prospect of relinquishing control. Instead, he experienced a delicate, tentative glimmer of potential he had never allowed himself to envision. The days after Sophie's unexpected revelation became a surreal blend of confusion, anxiety, and intense emotion for Ethan. He discovered himself drifting through his daily tasks with a sense of detachment, scarcely conscious of the choices and gatherings that typically demanded his complete focus. Each solitary moment was filled with reflections on the two young girls he had never known, and the woman from his past who had completely disrupted his meticulously arranged life. Sleep eluded him. Instead, he found himself lying awake night after night, gazing at the ceiling, his mind awash with unanswered questions and scenarios that remained just out of reach of his understanding. Seeking to reclaim a semblance of authority over his situation, Ethan opted for another independent DNA test, despite a nagging intuition that it was superfluous. As the second results came in, reaffirming that Lily and Emma were unquestionably his daughters, the truth weighed down on him, dissolving any remaining uncertainties. Sophie spoke honestly. This extraordinary, unfathomable event had occurred, and there was no denying the reality. He was a father. The following morning, a mix of anxiety and determination coursing through him, Ethan contacted Sophie to set up a visit to her and the girls at their humble apartment just beyond Manhattan. As he neared the weathered brick structure on a serene street adorned with quaint cafes and charming bookstores, an unsettling sense of unfamiliarity washed over him. Ethan had become familiar with the elegance of polished marble lobbies, the sophistication of sleek glass offices, and the allure of penthouse views, environments that insulated him from the unrefined and personal aspects of genuine existence. Positioned outside Sophie's door, he felt his heart race anxiously in his chest as he lifted his hand to gently knock, uncertain of what lay beyond that threshold. Sophie opened the door, a tentative smile gracing her lips as she welcomed him inside. Her abode exuded warmth and comfort, adorned with photographs, drawings, and toys strewn across the floor, accompanied by the subtle aroma of freshly brewed coffee. It stood in stark contrast to his sterile, meticulously organized apartment, yet he discovered an unexpected solace in its gentle chaos. Sophie led him into the living room, where Lily and Emma were quietly engaged in play on a plush rug, encircled by a menagerie of stuffed animals. In unison, they pivoted, gazing up at Ethan with eyes full of wonder and intrigue. Ethan experienced a sudden ache in his chest. The sight of their innocent faces awakened a profound emotion inside him, one he struggled to express. He eased himself into a seat nearby, maintaining a careful distance. Sophie observed quietly, granting him the freedom to explore this uncharted realm. For a few moments, Ethan quietly watched the girls, their slender fingers, flushed cheeks, and gentle curls framing their heavenly faces. Every detail appeared remarkable, almost like a miracle. In a moment of courage, Lily approached with determination, extending a small plush rabbit, as though presenting a cherished offering. Ethan extended his hand, its size overshadowing the toy, and was met with an unexpected surge of warmth and a sense of protectiveness as he lifted it from her delicate hold. "They are still acclimating to unfamiliar faces," Sophie articulated softly, her voice piercing the stillness. Ethan nodded, a blend of awkwardness and sincerity flickering across his face as he observed Lily's shy smile in return, inching closer to her sister in a subtle retreat. Ethan looked up at Sophie, his mind racing for the right words. "You've truly excelled," he finally remarked, his voice heavy with unexpected feeling. "I can only fathom the challenges you've faced while navigating this journey on your own." Sophie gave a slight shrug, her face reflecting deep contemplation. "The journey has been quite challenging. Yet, they are invaluable despite every challenge faced. Each night spent wide awake." She halted, her gaze locking onto Ethan's eyes. "I have no regrets whatsoever." For the next hour, their voices were low, the initial awkwardness gradually melting into a heartfelt exchange. Ethan discovered the unique traits of the girls, from Lily's adventurous spirit and boldness to Emma's soft-spoken nature and infectious laughter. He learned of their milestones, first steps, first words, and felt a deep sense of regret for having missed these precious moments. Sophie presented the truth of parenting solo with clarity, expressing herself without bitterness or resentment, and candidly discussing both the hurdles and delights of motherhood. As the twins started to drift off, Sophie tenderly scooped them up and laid them softly in their cribs in the next room, allowing Ethan a brief moment of solitude to take in his surroundings. Perched on the familiar, weathered couch, he came to understand the void that had lingered in his life, a void now filled with warmth, connection, and the presence of these little ones who were already transforming his outlook in profound ways. Sophie came back a few minutes later, taking a seat next to him in silence, as both of them found themselves uncertain about how to cross the unvoiced chasm of what had transpired before. Ethan faced her, his voice brimming with genuine emotion. "I don't expect you to forgive how I managed things in the past," he said gently. "However, I want you to understand that no matter what unfolds between us, my desire is to be present, for them and for you." Sophie examined his face intently, looking for genuine emotion, and then at last offered a gentle smile, nodding with deliberation. "I believe you," she whispered. "I truly value your words." As Ethan exited her apartment later that day, re-emerging onto the tranquil street and inhaling the crisp, refreshing air, he felt an undeniable certainty within him that there was no turning back. The meticulously curated isolation he had cherished for years was now unattainable. He had 2 daughters who depended on him, and even though he felt unsure and unready, he came to understand that, for the first time in his life, surrendering control felt oddly appropriate. In the weeks after Ethan's first visit to Sophie's apartment, he started to create consistent opportunities to be with Lily and Emma, striving to establish the trust and bond that had once seemed so unfamiliar to him. His once routine existence was now brimming with unforeseen obstacles and delightful pleasures he had never envisioned. Every interaction unveiled fresh dimensions of intricacy, from diaper changes to feeding routines, soothing tantrums, endeavors that required nurturing and gentleness over mere intellect and authority. At first, he faced challenges, clumsily gripping a bottle while Emma fidgeted in his embrace, or anxiously swapping out Lily's outfit after a little mishap. Yet, slowly, with Sophie's soft support and warm chuckles at his clumsiness, Ethan started to gain his balance. Sophie approached the situation with a blend of caution and encouragement, gently guiding Ethan as he embraced his new role, ensuring he felt comfortable and not overwhelmed. She exhibited remarkable patience with his errors, gently steering him whenever he appeared uncertain or exasperated. Though their exchanges started off somewhat cautious and occasionally fraught with unease, they gradually found a comfortable cadence. Ethan's regular trips to the humble apartment transformed into a cherished habit, one he looked forward to with genuine excitement rather than just tolerating. Amidst the persistent awkwardness, a cautious comfort began to emerge between them, a delicate agreement forged through their shared affection for the girls. On a brisk Saturday morning, Sophie extended an invitation to Ethan to accompany them on an excursion to a nearby park. Wrapped snugly, the twins chuckled joyfully in their stroller, while Ethan strolled beside Sophie along the leaf-strewn paths, the crisp autumn breeze flushing their cheeks with color. He caught himself stealing glances at Sophie, observing the tenderness in her expression as she watched their daughters play, the delicate way she tucked back stray strands of her golden hair, aglow in the morning sunlight. Ethan experienced a subtle ache of remorse, realizing in that instant the extent of the pain he had caused her before, and the solitude she had faced through it all. Upon arriving at a quaint playground, Sophie gently lifted the girls from their stroller, setting them down on the grass. They began to toddle with a mix of excitement and caution toward the swings and slides. Ethan lingered close, an instinctive urge to guard them from danger stirring within him. Observing their pure enthusiasm for the world surrounding them, he experienced an intense, deep surge of love and duty, feelings so strong they almost consumed him. His former existence, fueled only by relentless ambition and stark precision, now appeared empty in contrast. As Ethan settled onto the wooden bench next to Sophie, he discovered that his words flowed freely, unencumbered by the usual restraint he often maintained. "I wish I had known sooner," he admitted softly, his gaze fixed on the girls as they roamed the playground. "I regret having fled and constructed barriers around my heart. There was so much I overlooked." Sophie looked at him, her eyes soft and empathetic, but laced with a hint of sorrow. "We both erred, Ethan," she responded softly. "I might have put in more effort to seek you out. Yet, back then, I was convinced you preferred to remain hidden." He gently shook his head, his voice heavy with earnestness. "It was never about you, Sophie. It revolved around my personal fears and my own feelings of inadequacy. I never imagined I could be the type of person worthy of someone like you. Following the diagnosis, I persuaded myself that vanishing was the simpler option." He paused, inhaling deeply before continuing in a gentle tone. "But now, being with Lily and Emma, seeing you again, it feels as though I'm finally emerging from a prolonged, hollow slumber." Sophie sat in silence for a while, reflecting on his words with care. At last, she uttered her words, her tone soft yet resolute. "You've surpassed my expectations already. I never expected you to accept this, much less demonstrate such a strong willingness. I appreciate that immensely." Her gaze locked onto his, genuine and unguarded. And for the first time in years, Ethan sensed a fragile yet authentic bond beginning to rekindle between them. It lacked romance at that moment, but it was authentic, sincere, and profoundly human. In the days that followed, their exchanges became increasingly affectionate. Ethan eagerly anticipated not only the joy of seeing his daughters, but also the serene moments shared with Sophie. As they prepared snacks together, reminisced about the girls' little achievements, and laughed at their innocent antics. He started to realize how Sophie's presence soothed him, anchoring him in a manner he had never felt before. Gradually, the walls that separated them began to dissolve, giving way to a bond built on mutual respect and understanding, nurtured through shared duties and subtle encouragement. As the evening drew to a close and he finished helping with the twins' bedtime routine, Sophie accompanied him to the door, pausing for a moment in the softly lit hallway. Ethan faced her, uncertainty flickering in his gaze, yet determination resonated in his tone. "Sophie, no matter what unfolds from here, I want you to understand that I'm here to stay this time. I stand by them and by you." Sophie gave him a warm, sincere smile, nodding softly as she murmured, "I understand. I can perceive it." As Ethan departed from her apartment that evening, stepping onto the serene, chilly street, he sensed a burden he hadn't known he was shouldering start to ease. For the first time, he permitted himself to entertain the notion that maybe the scars of the past weren't indelible, and that his future, once so frigid and restrained, could be transformed into something more vibrant, inviting, and deeply significant. As the weeks unfolded, Ethan found himself diving deeper into the uncharted territory of fatherhood, steadily gaining confidence and ease in his newfound role. Juggling a demanding career with the responsibilities of fatherhood was no easy feat, but he discovered a growing attraction to the cozy chaos of Sophie's home. a stark contrast to the sterile precision of his own penthouse and office. His daily routines transformed gradually. Meetings were rearranged to create space for moments with Lily and Emma. Business trips were abbreviated for quicker returns, and his previously unyielding pace mellowed into a more relatable and sustainable rhythm. Yet, in spite of his deepening bond with his daughters, an unseen wall lingered between Ethan and Sophie, a careful reluctance to return to the emotional openness they had once embraced. Neither appeared inclined to jeopardize the fragile trust they had painstakingly restored, cautiously keeping their distance to safeguard themselves and their delicate balance. Every exchanged glance and each tranquil moment shared, while the twins slumbered, peacefully suggested unspoken emotions that lingered beneath the surface. On a rainy evening, Ethan answered a call from Sophie, her voice tinged with an unusual strain, unmistakably distressed. Sophie conveyed her concern over the phone, detailing how Emma had been struck by a sudden high fever and was utterly inconsolable. Ethan dashed out of his office in the midst of a meeting, weaving through the downpour and bustling traffic to reach Sophie's apartment, drenched by the relentless rain. Sophie greeted him at the door, clearly unsettled, her hair in disarray, concern marked profoundly on her weary face. Within the walls, Emma's delicate whimpers resonated gently, igniting a surge of instinctive guardianship in Ethan. He swiftly entered the nursery after Sophie, his heart tightening at the sight of Emma, her face flushed and uneasy, with tears tracing down her small cheeks. Ethan carefully cradled the small child in his arms, a mix of helplessness and resolve washing over him as he sought to ease her discomfort. As Sophie dialed the pediatrician, he cradled Emma gently, whispering comforting phrases he never thought he would utter. Lily observed silently from her crib, perplexed and anxious about the strange turmoil of the night. Eventually, Emma found a measure of calm, soothed by Ethan's gentle presence. Her small form nestled closely against his chest. After a tense call, Sophie returned to Ethan's side, her relief evident as she observed Emma finally at peace. The doctor mentioned it's likely just a virus, but we should keep a close eye on her tonight, Sophie said gently, her fatigue evident in her tone. Ethan nodded, reluctant to let Emma go, consumed by a deep desire to remain and offer his support. "I'll stay tonight," he said, his voice steady yet gentle. Sophie paused for a moment, then nodded with gratitude, silently recognizing how essential he was to her in that instant. They embraced the stillness of the night, alternating in their efforts to comfort Emma, keeping a watchful eye on her temperature, gently coaxing her back to slumber whenever she stirred uneasily. In the stillness of the night, their defenses slowly faded away. As they nestled on the sofa, Ethan held Emma close, his hand tenderly gliding over her golden curls, creating a moment of warmth and comfort. Sophie, nestled beside him, finally rested her head gently against his shoulder, her eyes fluttering shut for just a fleeting moment. Ethan felt a flutter in his chest at the gentle closeness of the gesture, aware of the change in their connection. Sophie whispered, her voice soft yet filled with genuine warmth, "I'm glad you're here. I was unaware of the depth of my need for support from another." Ethan gazed down at her, warmth swelling in his heart as he spoke gently. "You don't have to face this alone anymore, Sophie. I assure you, I am present for each and every one of you." They stayed softly entwined, weariness gradually enveloping them as dawn drew near, the worries of the night dissolving in the gentle glow of the morning light. As Emma's fever gradually diminished, her breathing settled into a tranquil rhythm of sleep. In that moment, amidst the turmoil that fatherhood had brought him, Ethan experienced a deep sense of serenity for the first time. As the morning light softly streamed into the serene apartment, Sophie and Ethan stirred awake gradually, remaining nestled together, while Emma slept soundly in the vicinity. Neither departed right away, remaining silently in the tranquility that followed the tempest. At last, Sophie raised her head with deliberate slowness, locking her gaze with Ethan's, her eyes reflecting both vulnerability and gratitude. "Thank you," she said softly, her voice heavy with feeling. Ethan reached out instinctively, gently tucking a stray lock of hair behind her ear, the softness of the gesture conveying so much more than words ever could. "No need for thanks," he said softly. I find myself precisely in the place I aspire to be. As Ethan finally departed to head home and get ready for his workday, stepping onto the moist city streets, he sensed a profound transformation within himself. The delicate bond forged in the heat of that lengthy night had grown stronger, uncovering realities they had previously shied away from or found too daunting to confront. Ethan came to a profound understanding, perhaps for the first time, that his love for his daughters was fierce and unwavering, and that his feelings for Sophie had lingered, never fully dissipating. He ultimately came to terms with the fact that he desired, craved, something deeper than a delicate bond centered solely on parenting. He desired for them to transform into something genuine, something enduring and true, a pursuit that demands all in its name. In the days that followed Emma's feverish night, the relationship between Ethan and Sophie underwent a subtle yet undeniable transformation. Ethan became increasingly immersed in the lives of his daughters, dedicating more evenings to Sophie's apartment, helping with bedtime rituals, cooking meals, and even mastering the delightful chaos of bath time. The meticulously upheld barriers that had kept Ethan distanced from the essence of domestic existence faded more with each fleeting moment shared with Sophie and the twins. He started to feel a deep, serene joy he had never thought could exist, a warmth that enveloped the emptiness his past achievements had failed to reach. At the office, his team and peers observed transformations in his demeanor. Ethan's once unyielding demeanor relaxed a bit, revealing a newfound patience and empathy. His serious reputation transformed gradually as he approached decisions with a fresh sense of empathy, recognizing the burden and duty that comes with genuinely caring for another's welfare. Even with the occasional intrigue from those nearby, Ethan opted to maintain the secrecy of his personal transformation, fiercely protecting this fragile new equilibrium. One evening, as Ethan assisted Sophie in cleaning up after dinner, the twins slumbered peacefully in their nursery, and a soothing silence enveloped them. Ethan meticulously dried the dishes while Sophie rinsed and passed them to him, their actions flowing together seamlessly, with an ease that felt instinctive. The unadorned beauty of the moment caught Ethan off guard, awakening feelings he could no longer suppress. As he set the final plate on the shelf, he hesitated, gradually pivoting to meet Sophie's gaze. His heart raced with anxiety, conscious that the delicate balance they had created could shatter if he unveiled his genuine emotions, yet also realizing that he could no longer keep quiet. Sophie, he started softly, his voice quivering just a bit with sincerity. These past few months have transformed everything for me. The girls, being a father, and sharing moments with you once more. It surpasses anything I ever imagined my life could encompass. Sophie lifted her gaze gradually, her brown eyes reflecting deep contemplation, as she waited with quiet patience for him to proceed. Ethan inhaled deeply, summoning his courage before proceeding with a gentle yet resolute tone. I understand that I caused you significant pain in the past. I distanced myself from you, believing it was the right choice for our well-being. Yet, in this moment with you witnessing what I overlooked, I understand the depth of my mistake. I desire for us to be more than just co-parents, Sophie. I desire more. I desire us. Sophie remained still, taking in his words, her face transforming from astonishment to a deep, thoughtful reflection. Ethan observed with a sense of trepidation, his pulse echoing in his ears, fearful that he had disclosed too much. At last, Sophie uttered her words in a soft tone, her voice tender yet laced with uncertainty. Ethan, I sensed a change in the dynamic between us. I noticed the transformation in you, the way you've been present for the girls and for me. Yet, I won't feign that I'm not afraid. Your departure had a lasting impact, and the consequences were significant. I'm uncertain about placing my trust in this once more so readily. Ethan nodded with empathy, moving a bit nearer, his voice heavy with genuine feeling. I don't anticipate instant trust, Sophie. All I seek is the opportunity to demonstrate that I am no longer the person who turned his back. Allow me to demonstrate, each day, through my actions rather than mere words, that my presence is here and now. I promise not to depart once more. Sophie examined him intently, her eyes probing for authenticity, for the assurance that his statements were rooted in true dedication. Gradually, she extended her hand, intertwining her fingers with his, her gentle touch igniting a wave of warmth within him. "I'm willing to try," she murmured gently, her voice a delicate whisper, laced with tentative optimism. "Kindly bear with me. This is quite challenging." Ethan grasped her hand with a gentle assurance, a warm smile spreading across his face, as relief and joy intertwined within him. "I will exercise patience, for however long it may require." In the weeks that followed, their bond blossomed softly, skillfully traversing the delicate space between camaraderie and rekindled love. They started to engage in deeper conversations, gradually revealing the scars of their past, the anxieties that had previously separated them, and the aspirations they still held for what lay ahead. Every sincere interaction deepened their bond, reinforcing their connection through shared understanding and respect. One afternoon, Ethan planned a delightful outing for Sophie and the twins, a serene visit to a nearby orchard, their little family meandering softly between the apple trees bathed in warm golden sunlight. With the twins frolicking in the background, Ethan softly grasped Sophie's hand once more, cradling it with care, enveloped in a profound sense of tranquility and connection. Sophie beamed softly, nestling against him, finally permitting herself to embrace the hope of shared joy once more. As dusk gently enveloped the orchard, Ethan sensed a tranquil assurance take root within him. He understood that the path forward could be fraught with challenges, and that trust would need to be cultivated with patience and diligence. Yet he was acutely aware that the family they were creating together, grounded in truth, empathy, and the opportunity for redemption, held a strength and significance beyond anything he had ever experienced. For the first time in years, Ethan embraced hope, not with hesitation or reservations, but wholeheartedly and transparently, believing that the future they were crafting together would justify every ounce of vulnerability and bravery it required. As winter gradually gave way to spring, a subtle yet undeniable transformation unfolded in Ethan's life, bringing with it a profound sense of completeness he had never thought possible. The individual who previously existed in solitary, pristine isolation had now become intertwined with a reality that was more vibrant, chaotic, and profoundly significant. The mornings unfolded with gentle footsteps and soft whispers rousing him from slumber far too soon, while the evenings drew to a close with cherished tales, drowsy laughter, and the warmth of Sophie drifting off beside him, their daughters nestled securely in the adjacent room. It was a life filled with subtle instances, rather than sweeping displays. In the midst of those everyday rituals, Ethan discovered a remarkable sense of tranquility. He persisted in managing his company, maintaining his respect and acuity, yet even his most relentless peers started to perceive a gentleness in him that was previously absent. He offered more smiles, paid closer attention, and slipped out of the office a bit earlier whenever possible. After many years, he finally saw time not just as a resource to be invested in productivity. He cherished the essence of returning home, embraced by two small arms encircling his legs, and witnessing Sophie in the kitchen, gazing at him not as a millionaire or a CEO, but merely as her beloved. As the girl's second birthday drew near, Ethan started to devise a plan that was subtle yet significant. Sophie expressed her surprise at the idea of having a conventional family or a steady partner again, given all that they had experienced. She had come to terms with the idea of navigating life on her own. Yet Ethan desired for her to sense not merely support, but a deep sense of being chosen, wanting her to understand, without any uncertainty, that their new life together was neither fleeting nor by chance. He had contemplated proposals in the past, ages ago, during a time when he resided behind a barrier of fear. Yet on this occasion fear was absent. There existed only a profound assurance, accompanied by a tender affection that demands nothing yet offers everything. He envisioned an intimate gathering in the park, a place that held memories of a chilly autumn day spent with the twins. It was the place where they had initially started to mend their bonds as a family. At that moment, he would invite her to remain by his side for eternity. The afternoon sun cast a gentle glow, its light weaving through the young leaves of the trees, while the earth below was adorned with a tapestry of wildflowers and cozy blankets. Their dearest friends gathered, along with several relatives from Sophie's family and a select group of Ethan's most reliable colleagues, who had evolved into more than just professional ties. Cupcakes adorned the faces of toddlers, balloons danced in the branches of trees, and a soft symphony of laughter filled the air as Lily and Emma meandered between laps and toys. As the festivities settled into a serene golden hour, Ethan gently took Sophie's hand and guided her a short distance from the gathering. She trailed behind effortlessly, her face a blend of curiosity and ease. The girls were close by with their friends, feeling entirely secure, and for a rare moment, they enjoyed some time just for themselves. He pivoted to meet her gaze, inhaling deeply, not from anxiety, but from the significance of this moment, and retrieved the small velvet box from his pocket. Sophie's eyes grew large, her lips slightly parted, and for a fleeting moment, time seemed to freeze around them. "I once believed this wasn't my path," Ethan murmured, his tone calm and measured. "Not for affection. This is not suitable for family viewing, and particularly not for you. I distanced myself from all the good things because I lacked the understanding of how to hold on to them. Yet you persisted, truly. Your return was timely, and with our daughters by your side, you offered me an opportunity for redemption that I never earned. Each morning, I rise with a clear understanding of my identity, and it's not defined by my achievements or possessions. Your presence, their influence, and the life we've built together are the reasons behind it all." He opened the box slowly, unveiling a ring that was simple yet elegant, devoid of grand diamonds or extravagant embellishments, merely a profound symbol of permanence. Sophie bent it. He continued, his voice softer, more vulnerable than it had ever been. "Will you marry me and truly embark on this imperfect, beautiful journey together, for real, forever?" Sophie blinked quickly, her eyes brimming with tears as a look of disbelief transformed into a radiant smile. She remained silent initially, merely nodding, her hand covering her mouth as she struggled to contain her feelings. At last she murmured, "Yes, absolutely yes. My love for you has never wavered." With trembling hands, he slid the ring onto her finger, and she leaned in, her arms encircling his neck as if to ground herself in this moment they had both yearned for over such a long time. From afar, Lily and Emma cheered with enthusiasm, unaware of the reason for the celebration, but captivated by the happiness emanating from the crowd surrounding them. Sophie bent down and gathered them both into her arms, while Ethan joined her, wrapping their small family in a warm, tight embrace. A heavy silence lingered in the air. There was no necessity for them to do so. The soft glow within their gathering spoke volumes. Later that night, after the girls had drifted off in their car seats during the ride home and Ethan carefully lifted them to bed, he and Sophie lingered in the doorway of their shared bedroom. She gazed at him for an extended moment, her smile radiating a sense of fulfillment that transcended mere joy. "I never imagined my life would turn out this way," she murmured gently. Ethan gently grasped her hand and pressed a kiss to it, leaning his forehead against hers in a tender moment. "Neither did I," he remarked. "However, I find it hard to envision anything more delightful." In that tranquil stillness, as the moonlight gently poured into the space, they grasped the essence of their struggles, the treasures they had uncovered. This is not a storybook ending. Embrace the journey. Yet, it is something genuine, earned through effort, and brimming with potential. A journey they embraced side by side. The months after their engagement passed with a gentle, unwavering elegance, characterized not by lavishness or grand gestures, but by the cadence of everyday life and the subtle resilience of two individuals committing to one another daily. Ethan and Sophie took their time with the wedding. They had no intention of seeking approval or validation from others. Instead, they concentrated on strengthening their connection and persistently cultivating the life they had created with Lily and Emma. The girls blossomed rapidly, their distinct personalities unfolding with every week. Lily was ever bold and curious, consistently guiding her sister into fresh escapades, while Emma exhibited a more observant nature, gentle and always ready to provide comfort when it was needed most. Ethan immersed himself in the melody of their laughter, the subtle nuances in the way they pronounced his name, the tender grasp of their small hands when fear or fatigue washed over them. The affection he experienced for them deepened, becoming increasingly intense, more stabilizing, and more enduring. Even with the inevitable hurdles that arose from parenting and intertwining their lives, Ethan and Sophie had mastered the art of sincere and gentle communication. They created a safe haven for one another's anxieties, recognized the pain they had previously inflicted, and embraced the opportunity to evolve past it. Sophie came to believe that Ethan would remain by her side, both in body and in spirit. Ethan ensured his point was clear, not merely with words, but with the very essence of his being. He arrived consistently, never requiring an invitation. The wedding was a cozy affair, personal, and precisely what they had envisioned. The gathering took place in the garden behind Sophie's sister's house, enveloped in a gentle glow of soft white light woven through ancient trees, accompanied by a small group of individuals who had grown to feel like family. Sophie donned a modest ivory dress adorned with delicate lace, her hair elegantly swept back, with a few soft curls gently framing her face. Ethan donned a navy suit, sans tie, his demeanor enigmatic to the casual observer, yet Sophie perceived the truth beneath it. She noticed the feeling that constricted his throat, the subtle tremor in his hands as they clasped hers, and the way his gaze softened the instant she appeared. Lily and Emma strolled down the improvised aisle in front of Sophie, adorned in identical white dresses, carelessly tossing flower petals and beaming at the friendly faces surrounding them. It was a whirlwind, delightful, and absolutely flawless. As they exchanged vows, neither attempted to deliver polished verses or flawless phrases. Ethan expressed the feelings that had been nestled in his heart for months, revealing that Sophie had transformed his life in every significant way. Her strength and love had provided him with something that success could never offer, and he acknowledged that she and the girls were his truest sanctuary. Sophie's voice trembled with emotion as she revealed her disbelief that anyone would return to fight for her. Not in this way. Ethan had demonstrated to her that sometimes it is in the second chance that love truly solidifies. They shared a kiss as their daughters cheered with delight and their friends laughed, tears of joy streaming down their faces. It may not have been magnificent, but it was authentic. For them, it was everything. They settled into a home on the outskirts of the city, in a serene neighborhood adorned with tree-lined streets and a spacious backyard perfect for two little girls to unleash their energy. It was not the existence Ethan had once imagined, but he soon understood it was the existence he had always required. He continued to manage his company, skillfully maneuvering through the challenges of his professional landscape. Yet the once frantic ambition that propelled him had transformed into a sense of purpose. He had ceased to pursue any need for validation. He had shed the weight of concern over recognition. His existence was no longer measured by his accomplishments, but by the individuals waiting for him at home. On certain evenings, once the girls had drifted off and the house settled into silence, Ethan and Sophie would find themselves in the kitchen, sipping tea and engaging in gentle conversations about what lay ahead, schools, vacations, and perhaps the possibility of expanding their family in the future. The discussions unfolded without any sense of urgency or pressure. They radiated a sense of ease and warmth, embodying a comfort that can only be found after enduring challenges together and coming out on the other side, stronger than before. One night, Sophie leaned her head against his shoulder and softly murmured, "I never imagined I would discover peace once more after all that has happened." Ethan pulled her close and replied softly, "You gave it to me. You were the genesis of it all." Indeed, she was. In each serene morning brimming with joy, in every twilight dedicated to gathering toys scattered about, in every exchanged look across a bustling room when the girls engaged in something amusing or absurd or delightful, Sophie was the essence of it all. Ethan discovered something beyond mere redemption. He had discovered happiness, and not the boisterous, transient kind, but the kind that lingers, the type you create, piece by piece, alongside those dear to you. And that was the true wonder. The conclusion of this narrative resonates deeply, as it eschews grandiose surprises or flawless endings. Instead, it flourishes in its emotional sincerity and the genuine, hard-won happiness that comes with a second opportunity. Ethan's change unfolds over time, marked by moments of vulnerability, a sense of responsibility, and genuine affection. Observing a man who previously experienced emotional solitude embrace fatherhood and partnership is profoundly fulfilling, not merely because he discovers joy, but because he evolves to truly merit it. Sophie's strength, grace, and her ability to forgive while still holding on to lessons learned make her a steadfast presence, not only for Ethan but for the life they create together. Their love, far from a fairy tale, is instead a tapestry woven from pain, trust, and the daily commitment to one another, which adds a profound depth to its significance. This isn't merely a joyful conclusion, it's a commencement grounded in